In a world where magic rules and competition is fierce, Arlen is a young mage often overlooked by his peers. He hides in the shadows, watching as stronger mages boast about their skills by a glowing campfire. The laughter and scorn he hears only deepen his doubts. However, a chance to enter the shadow tournament ignites a spark in him. Determined to prove his worth, Arlen takes a brave step forward, hoping to change how others see him as the weakest mage. The night air crackled with excitement as flames danced in the center of the camp, casting flickering shadows on the faces of powerful mages gathered around the fire. Their laughter echoed through the forest, thick with bravado and magical energy. Among them, Arlen lingered in the shadows, unnoticed and underestimated. He watched the confident mages boast about their feats, tales of spells that could shatter mountains or summon storms. Each word felt like a dagger, piercing through his self-doubt. "Did you see the way I turned that boulder into butterflies?" One mage cackled, slapping his knee. The others roared with laughter, their eyes sparkling with admiration. "That's true magic!" Arlen clenched his fists, the ridicule of his peers ringing in his ears. "Weakest mage," they whispered when they thought he couldn't hear. Yet, hidden beneath the layers of shame, a flicker of determination sparked within him. He leaned closer, ears straining to catch the words that could change everything. "Did you hear about the shadow tournament?" A voice broke through the noise. "The prizes for the victor are incredible. Gold, fame, and magical artifacts unlike any other." "What does a nobody like Arlen think he can do?" Another voice sneered. "He'll just trip over his own spells." As the laughter continued, Arlen's heart raced. The thought of entering the tournament filled him with a mix of fear and excitement. Could he prove them wrong? Could he really change their perception of him? The spark of determination ignited into a flame. He straightened his shoulders, made a decision, and stepped out of the darkness. With each step toward the registration table, Arlen felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. He could almost hear the whispers of ridicule behind him, but he pushed forward. "I'm entering," he declared, surprising even himself with his conviction. The registrar looked up, a smirk playing on her lips. "You? In the tournament?" Arlen nodded, swallowing hard. "Yes, I want to compete." "Good luck," she said, her tone dripping with skepticism. As he signed his name, a wave of conflicting emotions washed over him. Fear clawed at his insides, but excitement danced in his chest. Could he really do this? Was he strong enough to face the challenges ahead? Arlen took a deep breath, feeling the ink dry on the parchment. He was officially a competitor. That night, sleep eluded him. He lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling of his small tent. Thoughts raced through his mind, replaying the laughter of the mages and their dismissive words. "What if I fail?" he whispered to himself, clutching the blanket tightly. But as he reflected on the tournament, another thought slowly took root. What if I succeed? Morning light filtered through the trees, and the tournament began. Arlen stood among the other competitors, heart pounding in his chest. The first challenge loomed ahead, a test of elemental control. His stomach twisted as he realized what was at stake. "Good luck, Arlen, you'll need it," a nearby competitor shouted, eliciting chuckles from the crowd. With trembling hands, Arlen stepped forward, anxiety tightening his chest. He struggled to focus, feeling the pressure of the audience's gaze. Spells he had rehearsed in his mind slipped through his fingers like sand, and he stumbled, evoking laughter and scorn. His heart sank deeper with each failed attempt. "I can't do this," he muttered under his breath. Just when despair threatened to consume him, a memory flashed before his eyes. His mother, her gentle smile encouraging him to find his strength. "You have it within you, Arlen. Trust yourself." In that moment, hope ignited once more. With a deep breath, he concentrated, feeling the magic within him. A flicker of light burst forth from his fingers, illuminating the dark arena. The audience gasped as he managed to summon a small orb, defeating an opponent who had underestimated him. Surprised by his own success, Arlen felt a glimmer of confidence bloom in his chest. Maybe, just maybe, he was not the weakest mage after all. As the cheers erupted around him, he realized he had taken the first step toward proving himself. The tournament had only just begun, but Arlen's journey had already started to change. The sun rose over the arena, casting long shadows across the ground as the tournament began. Arlen stood at the edge of the crowd, his heart pounding in his chest. The cheers and shouts of the audience filled the air, but all he could hear was the voice of his inner doubts. What if I fail? He thought, feeling small among the confident competitors. His first challenge was a test of elemental control. Arlen watched as other mages conjured flames and waves with ease. Look at them, he whispered to himself. They are so powerful. He felt the weight of their expectations as he stepped forward, ready to face his first trial. The judge called out, "Arlen, step up." With shaky hands, he walked to the center of the arena. The audience's eyes were on him, and he felt their scrutiny like a heavy cloak. He took a deep breath as the judge explained the task. You must summon a small flame and keep it alive for 1 minute. Arlen nodded, but inside, fear gripped him. He raised his hands, focusing on his magic. Come on, Arlen, you can do this, he muttered under his breath. He closed his eyes, trying to gather his thoughts. But when he opened them, all he could think about was how weak he felt compared to the others. He attempted to conjure the flame, but nothing happened. He tried again, but only a small spark flickered and died. The audience erupted in laughter, their scorn cutting deeper than any spell. Is that all you've got? One voice yelled, and Arlen's face burned with embarrassment. Why do I even try? He thought, feeling the weight of his failure pressing down on him. Just then, a memory flashed through his mind, a warm, gentle voice that had always encouraged him. You have the strength within you, Arlen. Trust yourself, his mother had said. In that moment, he remembered her smile and the love she had shown him. It filled him with a new sense of hope. I can do this, he whispered, gripping his hands together tightly. He closed his eyes again, this time focusing on that memory, allowing it to guide him. With renewed determination, Arlen raised his hands once more. Light, come to me, he shouted, pouring all his feelings into his words. Suddenly, a small flame flickered to life in his palm, bright and steady. The laughter paused, replaced by gasps of surprise. Arlen opened his eyes, astonished by the flame that danced above his hand. I did it, he exclaimed, his voice a mix of disbelief and joy. The crowd erupted in cheers, and even some of the competitors nodded in respect. He felt a rush of confidence, something he had never experienced before. His opponent, a more powerful mage with a smirk on his face, stepped forward. You may have summoned a flame, but can you control it? He taunted, preparing to unleash a torrent of water to extinguish Arlen's fire. With a quick decision, Arlen focused on his flame, drawing strength from the memory of his mother. I won't let you win, he declared, standing firm. As the water crashed toward him, he guided the flame to rise higher, creating a shield of light. The water hit the flame and evaporated into steam, leaving Arlen's fire unscathed. The crowd erupted into cheers again, and Arlen's heart soared. He had not only survived the challenge, but he had also surprised himself and everyone around him. I won, he shouted, unable to contain his excitement. As he stepped back, he felt a new sense of purpose flooding through him. He realized that the tournament was not just about power, but also about believing in oneself. Arlen's journey had just begun, and with each step, he felt his confidence grow. Keep it up, Arlen, a fellow competitor called out, clapping him on the back. You've shown everyone what you can do. With a smile, Arlen replied, Thanks, I think I finally believe I can be more than just the weakest mage. The cheers of the audience echoed in his ears, and he knew that this was only the start of his journey. As the days passed in the Shadow Tournament, Arlen felt the weight of competition pressing down on him. Each challenge revealed not just his weaknesses, but also the complex nature of his rivals. Among them was Celine, a mage who captivated those around her with her charm. Arlen often watched her from a distance, noting how she effortlessly turned the crowd's attention to her. One evening, as they all gathered around the campfire, Celine spoke with a voice smooth as silk. "You see, my dear competitors," she said, her eyes glinting in the firelight. "Power is not always about strength. Sometimes it's about knowing how to play the game." Laughter erupted around her as others cheered her on. Arlen could not help but feel a mix of admiration and wariness. He wondered if her charm masked a darker side. In the quiet moments of the tournament, Arlen often found himself lost in thought, reflecting on his own journey. He remembered a time when he was just a boy, filled with dreams of greatness. Suddenly, he was snapped from his reverie by the sound of a commotion nearby. It was Kale, another fierce competitor, who had just lost a match. "Why can't I win?" Kale shouted, his fists clenched in frustration. "I fight for my brother. I must be strong for him." The pain in his voice was palpable, and Arlen felt a pang of empathy. Kale's anger was not just about the tournament. It was a battle against his own grief. Arlen approached cautiously. "Kyle, we all have our reasons for fighting. You're not alone in this," he said, trying to offer solace. Kyle turned to him, eyes blazing. "What do you know about loss? You're just a weak mage playing pretend." The harsh words stung, but Arlen stood firm. "I may not have lost a brother, but I know what it feels like to be underestimated. I'm here to prove I am more than what others think," Arlen replied, his voice steady. Kyle's expression softened for a moment, revealing a glimpse of the turmoil within. Meanwhile, Celine watched from the edge of the crowd, her expression inscrutable. She had heard their exchange and seemed intrigued. As the tournament continued, she often approached Arlen after his matches, her charm weaving a web around him. "Arlen, you surprised everyone with that last spell," she said one day, leaning closer, her voice low and inviting. "You could be so much more if you learned to play the right cards." He felt a mix of allure and suspicion. Did she genuinely want to help him, or was she seeking to manipulate him for her own gain? "I don't want to play games, Celine," Arlen replied, his gaze steady. "I just want to be strong in my own way." She raised an eyebrow, a smile dancing on her lips. "Strength is a game, my friend. It's all about strategy. You should consider my offer." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows, Arlen found himself wrestling with the complexity of his rivals. He admired Celine's cunning, yet felt uncertain about her motives. Kyle's rage resonated with his own fears of inadequacy, but Arlen also saw a flicker of vulnerability in him. In the following trials, Arlen watched as Celine used her charm to sway the judges, winning matches through persuasion rather than pure skill. It made him question the nature of competition. Was it truly about power, or was it a test of character? One afternoon, after a particularly grueling trial, Arlen found himself alone, contemplating his path. "What does it truly mean to be strong?" he whispered to himself, the question echoing in the quiet air. In that moment, he realized that strength was not just about winning. It was about understanding the struggles of others, about the shared pain and resilience that connected them all. He thought of Kale and Celine, both fighting their own battles in the arena of life. As he prepared for the next challenge, Arlen felt a shift within him. He would face his rivals not just as opponents, but as fellow warriors, each with their own stories and struggles. Perhaps, by understanding their complexities, he could discover the true meaning of strength in the tournament and beyond. As the tournament progressed, Arlen found himself standing alone in a dim corner of the arena, feeling the weight of the competition pressing down on him. The air was thick with tension as competitors gathered, each eyeing their opponents with a mix of fear and determination. Arlen's heart raced as whispers of forbidden spells reached his ears, tales of dark magic that could change the course of the tournament in an instant. One evening, as he sat by himself, he overheard two mages discussing a particularly powerful spell hidden in an ancient grimoire. "They say it can crush anyone who stands in your way," one mage said, his voice low and conspiratorial. "But it comes at a cost. You might hurt those you care about." Arlen's mind raced. He could picture the spell vividly, a surge of energy that could bring him victory. But at what price? He remembered the laughter and scorn he had faced, the moments when he had doubted himself. Yet, something tugged at his conscience. Could he really harm others just to prove he was worthy? That night, as he lay in his tent, he recalled the lessons from his mother. "True strength comes from within, Arlen," she would often say. "It is not about power or winning at any cost. It is about integrity." Her words echoed in his mind, a lifeline in his sea of doubt. The next day, Arlen found himself in front of the grimoire, the temptation of the spell looming before him like a dark shadow. He could almost feel its power vibrating in the air. As he reached out to touch the pages, a voice interrupted his thoughts. "You're not really thinking of using that, are you?" Startled, Arlen turned to see Celine standing there, her expression a mix of curiosity and concern. "It could make you the champion," she continued, her tone softening. "But is that who you want to be?" "I don't know," Arlen replied, his voice trembling. "I just want to be strong, to prove that I can do this." Celine stepped closer, her eyes searching his. "Strength isn't just about winning. It's about how you win. If you use that spell, you'll only become what everyone thinks you are, a weak mage who needs to cheat to succeed." Her words struck a chord within him. He could see the truth in her eyes, and for a moment, he felt a connection. "But what if I fail?" he asked, vulnerability spilling out. "What if I can't do this on my own?" "Failure is part of the journey," Celine said, her voice steady. "You can't be afraid of it. You have to trust yourself." With that, her words washed over him like a cool breeze, bringing clarity. Arlen took a deep breath, and with each exhale, the urge to use the forbidden spell faded. He stepped back from the grimoire, shaking his head. "No, I won't do it. I'll compete with my own abilities." Celine smiled, a flicker of respect shining in her eyes. "That's the spirit. Show them what you can really do." As Arlen prepared for his next challenge, he felt a surge of determination. He envisioned the arena, the cheers of the crowd, and the thrill of casting his spells without the shadow of dishonor. He knew that whatever the outcome, he would leave the tournament as himself. In the arena, the atmosphere was electric. The crowd roared as he faced his next opponent, a fierce mage known for her aggressive tactics. Arlen stood tall, feeling the warmth of his decision envelop him like a protective shield. "Ready to lose?" his opponent taunted, smirking as she raised her staff. Arlen felt the familiar pang of fear but pushed it aside. "I'm ready to show you what true strength looks like," he replied, his voice steady. As the battle began, he channeled all his focus into each spell he cast, feeling the energy flow through him. With every flick of his wrist, he embraced his own magic, and for the first time, he felt powerful. Not because of a spell that could harm others, but because he believed in himself. And as the crowd roared with excitement, Arlen knew he had made the right choice. The arena was not just a place of competition, it was a stage for his growth, a testament to the strength of his character. He was ready to carve his own path, one filled with honor and integrity, and he would face whatever challenges lay ahead, with his head held high. As the sun began to set over the arena, casting long shadows across the ground, Arlen felt a mix of anticipation and fear. The final battle was near. He stood alone, trying to calm his racing heart. In front of him, the crowd buzzed with excitement, their cheers echoing off the stone walls. This was it, the moment that would define him. Celine and Kyle stood across the arena, their expressions fierce and determined. Arlen could see the fire in their eyes. They were both fighting their own battles, haunted by their pasts. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. "Are you ready to lose, Arlen?" Celine called out, her voice dripping with confidence. "You think you can win this with your weak tricks?" Arlen clenched his fists, but did not respond. He remembered the pain behind Celine's bravado. He had seen it in her eyes during the tournament. She was not just a rival. She was a person with her own struggles. Kale stepped forward, his jaw set tight. "This ends today. I will not let anyone stand in my way." His voice was low, filled with anger and sorrow. Arlen could sense the deep pain that drove Kale. "I don't want to fight you both," Arlen said, surprising himself with his own words. "What if we talk instead? We all have our reasons for being here, and I think we could understand each other." Celine raised an eyebrow, her surprise momentarily breaking through her tough exterior. "Talk? You think that will change anything?" "It could," Arlen replied, his voice steady. "Maybe we are not as different as we think. We all want to prove ourselves, but fighting won't help us understand our pain." Kale's expression softened for a moment. "You don't know what you're asking for, Arlen. You don't know what I've lost." "I know it hurts," Arlen said, stepping closer. "I lost someone too. My mother always told me that strength comes from understanding, not just power." Celine crossed her arms, but her expression was less defensive now. "And what makes you think we will listen to you? You think your words can change our minds?" "Maybe not change," Arlen admitted, "but maybe they can help us see each other as more than just rivals. I feel your pain, and I want to help you find peace, just like I am trying to find it for myself." For a brief moment, the arena fell silent, the audience watching with bated breath. The tension in the air shifted as Celine and Kyle exchanged glances, uncertainty crossing their faces. Kyle spoke first, his voice quieter. "I fight because I need to avenge my brother. That's all I have left. What do you know about loss?" Arlen's heart ached for Kale. "I lost my mother when I was young. I wanted to be strong, but I realized that hurting others wouldn't bring her back. It only made the pain worse." Celine uncrossed her arms, her guard lowering slightly. "And what about me? I've done terrible things to get where I am. I've hurt people. Can I ever be forgiven?" "Forgiveness starts with understanding," Arlen said gently. "We all make mistakes, but we can change. We can choose to be better." Slowly, Celine's expression softened as she felt the weight of Arlen's words. "What do you suggest, Arlen? Do you want us to just forget everything?" "No," Arlen replied. "But we can try to move forward, together. We can find strength in each other instead of against each other." The crowd watched in awe as the three stood together, their former rivalry melting away in the face of shared pain. The confrontation had shifted from a battle of magic to a meeting of hearts. Kale took a deep breath, looking between Arlen and Celine. Maybe we can find a way to work together. Maybe we don't have to be enemies." Celine nodded slowly, a small smile breaking through her tough demeanor. "I never thought I would say this, but I'm willing to try." Arlen smiled, feeling a warmth in his heart. "Then let this be our new beginning. Let's show everyone that true strength is in understanding, not just in power." With that, the three of them stood united, ready to face whatever came next, not as rivals, but as allies. The audience erupted in applause, witnessing a transformation that none had expected. Arlen's quiet strength had woven a bond, creating a moment of unity that would echo long after the tournament was over. As the last echoes of the tournament faded into the night, Arlen stood amidst the gathered crowd, feeling the weight of what had just transpired. He had not emerged victorious in the way many expected, yet a new kind of victory enveloped him like a warm cloak. The cheers of the audience rang in his ears, but they were not for his magical prowess. They were for the compassion he had shown. Celine approached him, her eyes still shimmering with unshed tears. "I never thought I would say this," she began, her voice trembling slightly. "But you have changed me, Arlen. I always believed strength meant winning at any cost. You showed me that true strength is different." Arlen smiled softly, feeling the sincerity of her words. "You are stronger than you think, Celine. You have the power to change your path, to choose kindness over competition." Kyle, who had been standing a little distance away, now stepped forward. His expression was solemn, but there was a lightness in his stance that had not been there before. "I came here seeking revenge," he admitted. "But instead, I found a reason to forgive. Not just you two, but myself as well." "Forgiveness is not easy," Arlen said, his voice steady. "It takes courage to let go of the pain and move forward." Celine nodded, wiping a tear from her cheek. "I always thought I had to win, but now I see that I can win in different ways. I can build connections instead of walls." Kale added, "We all have our battles, and they are not always against each other. Sometimes the hardest fight is against our own fears." His gaze shifted to Arlen. "You showed us that." As the sun began to rise over Eldoria, casting a soft golden glow on the arena, the three stood together, united by their shared experiences. The tournament had tested them, not just as mages, but as individuals searching for meaning in their lives. Arlen looked out at the horizon. "This is just the beginning. We can choose to support each other rather than compete. Imagine what we could achieve together." Celine smiled brightly, her confidence growing. "We could create a new kind of magic, one based on understanding and cooperation." Kale grinned, his spirit lifted. "Together, we can face whatever challenges come next. We can help others see that strength is not just about power." The crowd began to disperse, but the bond between them felt unbreakable. Arlen felt a surge of hope. He had not only proven his worth, but had also changed the perception of what it meant to be a mage in the Torneo das Sombras. As they started walking away from the arena, Celine turned to Arlen. "What will you do now? Will you keep competing?" Arlen paused, considering her question. "I think I will focus on learning and growing. There is so much more to magic than just winning tournaments. I want to help others find their strength." Kale nodded in agreement. "And we can do it together. Let's support those who feel underestimated, just like you once did." With a sense of purpose, they walked side by side, ready to face the future. The sun rose higher, illuminating their path and the promise of new beginnings. Arlen felt a warmth in his heart, knowing that he had become more than just a mage. He had become a beacon of hope. In that moment, he realized that true victory was not found in defeating others, but in lifting them up. Together, they could redefine what it meant to be powerful in a world filled with magic. As the three of them ventured into the dawn, the spirit of the Torneo das Sombras transformed into something far more significant. They were no longer just competitors. They were friends, allies, and champions of a new kind of magic. Share this story if you believe that true strength lies in compassion and understanding. Let us know in the comments how a moment of kindness has transformed your life. Don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales that celebrate the power of friendship and unity.